My name is Samuel Bennett, 58 years old, and after 35 years as a county land surveyor in Oregon, I believed I'd earned a quiet retirement. I inherited my father's lakeside cabin on Clearwater Lake, part of a 50-acre plot he purchased in 1985 to foster a serene, cooperative community. For years, it was exactly that, a place where neighbors shared stories and respected boundaries. But 3 years ago, everything shifted when Victoria Hayes, 52, moved in and seized control as president of the Homeowners Association, HOA. She transformed our haven into her personal fiefdom, enforcing rules so absurd they bordered on parody: no clotheslines, no unpermitted gardens, even exterior paint colors required her approval. Most residents stayed silent to avoid her wrath, but my career had taught me how to handle bureaucrats like her. Victoria didn't know she'd targeted someone who understood every regulation, loophole, and property line. This is the story of how one sunflower sparked a battle that changed our community forever. The trouble began when I planted a single sunflower by my front porch. It was a simple act, a seed tossed into the soil for a splash of color to brighten my mornings. The next day, Victoria appeared, clipboard in hand, her smile dripping with false courtesy. She informed me that landscaping changes required HOA approval. I calmly explained it was my property, and I'd plant what I pleased. Her smile faltered, revealing a colder edge beneath the pretense. That moment marked the start of her campaign against me. What Victoria didn't know was that in 1985, my father, Henry Bennett, had bought the entire 50 acres around Clearwater Lake. He leased 45 acres to the HOA for $1 a year, envisioning an affordable community where families could thrive. I'd inherited that land and never raised the lease fee, trusting neighbors to govern fairly. My refusal to bow to her sunflower edict unleashed a relentless onslaught that IT started subtly. On Monday, a $200 fine arrived for improper vehicle placement. My truck, parked on my property for years, was suddenly a blight on the community aesthetic. By Wednesday, a $300 penalty hit for unauthorized construction, a wooden bench I'd built by the lake. Friday brought a $150 fine for non-compliant exterior stain. My cabin's natural cedar, unchanged for decades, didn't match Victoria's approved palette. Each citation carried threats of escalating enforcement. I began documenting everything. My surveyor's instincts demanded precision. I photographed notices, logged Victoria's visits, and studied the HOA's governing documents. Something about her aggression felt calculated, and I sensed a deeper flaw in her authority. Victoria's next move was crueler. She called an emergency HOA meeting, excluding me, and branded me a troublemaker who flouted community standards. Neighbors who'd once been friends, Elena Ruiz, who tended her roses across the street, Nathan Carter, who hosted summer barbecues, began avoiding me. Victoria's whisper campaign was ruthless. She spread rumors that I was volatile, a threat to property values, positioning herself as the community's protector. The isolation stung. These weren't just neighbors, they were people I'd shared life with. But Victoria misjudged my resolve and my expertise. While she turned the community against me, I installed security cameras and dug into public records, reviewing my father's land agreements and the HOA's finances. My patience, honed over decades, was my greatest asset. The harassment intensified. Victoria called the sheriff, falsely claiming I'd threatened her during a discussion about her fines. Deputies arrived, professional but skeptical, and reviewed my footage. The video showed me calmly questioning her legal authority on my porch. The false report backfired, but not before fueling neighborhood gossip. Victoria posted on the community's online forum about safety concerns, implying I was a danger. Deputy Alvarez, one of the responders, quietly advised me to keep meticulous records. "We see HOA overreach more than you'd think," he said. "Power corrupts fast." Victoria's tactics grew bolder. One day, I returned to find my mailbox gone, replaced with a notice about non-compliant design. The original had stood for 20 years. She also had the community landscaping crew accidentally cut branches from a maple shading my porch, claiming they crossed into common areas, despite being on my land. Each act was legally ambiguous enough to skirt criminality but invasive enough to wear me down. The psychological toll was real. I understood why people might abandon their homes under such pressure. But Victoria didn't know she was facing someone who'd spent a career navigating property disputes. The breaking point came on a Saturday when I returned from town to find my garden fence demolished and my sunflower uprooted. Victoria had hired a crew to remove non-compliant structures while I was gone. Taped to my door was a notice, final warning. 72 hours to demolish unauthorized structures, or the HOA will enforce compliance. My cameras captured it all, Victoria directing the crew, saying, "This old fool needs to learn his lesson." That night, staring at the broken fence and the barren patch where my sunflower once stood, I felt a quiet resolve. Victoria had crossed into criminal territory, and she'd awakened something unyielding in me. That I retrieved my father's documents from the basement safe and called Thomas Reed, the attorney who'd helped draft the original lease in 1985. At 70, Thomas was sharp and eager. "Samuel, I've waited decades for a case like this," he said. "Let's teach this HOA bully a lesson." We reviewed the lease, which allowed rent adjustments to market rates with 30 days' notice. For 40 years, I'd charged $1 annually for 45 acres of prime lakefront land. Current rates were $12,000 per acre per year, a potential $540,000 annual lease. Victoria's property damage also opened her to criminal and civil liability. Thomas drafted the rent increase notice while I audited the HOA's activities. The audit revealed staggering misconduct. Victoria had built a community pavilion and tennis courts on my land without consent, violating the lease. She'd raised HOA fees from $200 to $450 monthly without proper votes. Most damning, she'd siphoned $18,000 from community funds for personal landscaping. Falsified minutes, forged signatures, and threats against dissenting residents painted a picture of a near-criminal enterprise masquerading as governance. That a surprising ally emerged when Michael Hayes, Victoria's husband, knocked on my door one evening. Exhausted and apologetic, he said, "Samuel, I can't support her anymore. She's unrecognizable." He described Victoria's controlling behavior at home, monitoring his calls, raging over HOA challenges. Michael handed me a USB drive with her emails and texts, revealing vote rigging and financial fraud. She forged signatures to stay president, he said, offering printed evidence of her threats against residents. His betrayal was the final piece I needed. Thomas and I prepared a legal arsenal, a rent increase to $540,000, a civil suit against Victoria for damages and harassment, and a criminal complaint for property destruction. We also requested an emergency HOA meeting to address the community's future. Through old colleagues, I connected with Rachel Liu, a reporter for the local NBC affiliate who covered HOA abuses. "This is a bombshell," she said. "People need to hear about this." Rachel's research uncovered Victoria's history of similar conflicts in her previous neighborhood, suggesting a pattern of tyranny. The meeting was set for a Wednesday evening. I sent notices to all 67 households, citing critical land ownership issues. Victoria called, furious about my unauthorized meeting, but I reminded her of the bylaws allowing emergency sessions. The community center overflowed with 92 attendees, including curious neighbors from nearby areas. Rachel and her cameraman filmed from the back, permitted under public meeting laws. Victoria arrived with a stack of papers, confident she'd dominate. She was about to learn how wrong she was. That I opened with a question: "Who here knows who owns the 45 acres under Clearwater Lake?" Blank stares and murmurs followed. Victoria, as HOA president, cared to clarify. Her silence was deafening. I presented my father's deed. "I'm Samuel Bennett, son of Henry Bennett, who bought this land in 1985. I'm your landlord, leasing this land for $1 a year." The room fell silent, shock rippling through the crowd. Victoria's face drained of color. Connecting my laptop to the projector, I displayed evidence. Footage showed Victoria ordering my fence and sunflower destroyed, her voice clear: "Teach this fool a lesson." Financial records exposed her $18,000 theft, unauthorized fee hikes, and forged documents. Emails from Michael revealed her threats against residents like Elena Ruiz, who tearfully admitted, "Victoria said I was a danger. I was too scared to speak to you, Samuel." Nathan Carter confessed, "She fined me $900 for my kids' bikes in the driveway. We struggled to pay it." Stories poured out, families harassed, children barred from playgrounds, all under Victoria's reign. Victoria erupted, shouting, "You're all being manipulated. I've protected this community." Her fury contrasted with my calm rebuttal: "Protected? By fining families into debt, by destroying property. Rachel Liu addressed the crowd, I've covered many HOA disputes. This is blatant abuse. Samuel could end this lease, dissolving your community. Gasps followed, but I clarified, I won't displace anyone. I want leadership that serves, not bullies. The vote to remove Victoria was 67-2, with one abstention. She left in silence, her authority shattered. Elena Ruiz was elected interim president, her 25 years as a school counselor guiding her collaborative approach. Rachel's report aired that night, sparking widespread support. The story, dubbed the $1 Landlord's Victory, went viral, amassing 3 million views and inspiring HOA reform discussions. Elena's leadership transformed Clearwater Lake. Fees dropped to $250 monthly, with transparent budgets. Restrictive rules vanished, residents could garden freely, kids played later. Victoria and Michael divorced. She sold her house to pay $23,000 in restitution and damages, plus a $2,500 fine and 120 hours of community service for property destruction. She relocated to Arizona, banned from Oregon HOA roles. Michael stayed, rebuilding trust with the community. 2 years later, I sit by the lake, watching 20 families tend a sunflower garden we planted to mark Sunflower Day, our community's rebirth. A sign on my cabin, carved by Michael, reads, Samuel Bennett, Community Ally. Clearwater Lake is now a model neighborhood, with property values up 18% due to its cooperative spirit. Elena and I consult for other HOAs, and Nathan runs youth workshops. Rachel's follow-up report spurred Oregon's Clearwater Amendment, mandating HOA transparency and oversight. Why Father's dream of a peaceful community took 40 years, one tyrant's overreach, and a surveyor's stubborn fight to realize. Victoria tried to break me but forged a stronger community. The sunflowers stand tall, facing the light, a reminder that true power lies in service, courage, and standing firm against darkness.